Hi friends, it's Andrea. Welcome back to the next episode of the Sewspire Variety Show. I have a wonderful adventure planned for you. We're going outside in the garden to repurpose a fire pit. Then we're coming inside to repurpose an oak entertainment center, as well as sew an awesome travel pod that you can use to create compartments in your suitcase. This spacious bag is also great for organizing the linen closet, your fabric collection, or any other larger space that you wish to contain into smaller collections. I'm also going to give you a quick little look at my secondary studio space, as well as the new space that I've set up here for me in the basement. Let's jump right in. So this is the fire pit that we used last summer, and it's gotten rusted from sitting out. I recently replaced it with a solo stove, which I totally love. So I'm gonna go ahead and repurpose this today into a planter. I really love that it has those legs on it and it'll be raised up off the ground. I got these plants for free. Somebody at church was giving them away. I picked up some quality potting mix and I'm just gonna plant them all in here and see how they do. I'm really happy with how this turned out. I especially love that this fire pit comes with a stand, so these plants are up off the ground. It already had a hole for drainage drilled in the bottom of it, and next year when I go to replant, I can put this screen on top and create a little greenhouse effect in here. I think Tim approves of the new addition as well. So if you have a old fire pit, consider repurposing that into a planter, or maybe even if you see one on Facebook Marketplace or at a yard sale, this video will offer you some inspiration on how you can create a little herb garden for yourself. So we are going to begin by preparing the zipper gusset for this. So you're going to take those 5.5-inch wide by 35.5-inch cuts, and you're going to press those long ways, wrong sides together, and there will be 2 of those. You're going to need a 36-inch long zipper. I'm working with Zipper by the Yard, and you're going to want that to have the wider zipper tape. And then you're going to take these panels and you're going to position the folded edge right up against that zipper and stitch down both sides so that you're framing out the zipper. You don't have to worry about putting on the poles quite yet. So I'm going to begin with this first one here, and I'm just lining up that folded edge right up against that zipper, and I'm using a 1/4-inch foot on my sewing machine. So just stitch as close as you can without going over the edge. Go ahead and back stitch to reinforce at the beginning and the end. And I have a 3.5-inch stitch length here, a 90-14 needle, and I am working with some 100% cotton thread. The fabric that I selected for this project is a lightweight home decor. I did not interface it because I want to keep this packing cube really light so it doesn't add weight or bulk to my suitcase. But you certainly could use your choice of interfacing. A variety of things would be appropriate, including the foam, the Pellon 808, quilt batting. It just really depends what type of contents you plan to put in your cube. So I've got one edge attached, and now I'm going to do the same thing on the opposite side of the zipper. And now I have my zipper framed, and that's what that looks like. Now I want to go ahead and thread on my zipper pull. I am just going to use a single pull on this, but you certainly could use a double pull. If you're going to use a double pull, thread them on each end so they meet in the center. I just need a single pull for this particular one. So I just separate that zipper, feed the teeth through the widest end of that pull, and then stabilize that. And I like to zip it all the way to the end, but don't unzip it completely off, just to get out that little wrinkle in there. And then I'm going to go ahead and stitch across that zipper to kind of stabilize that end, just about a 1/4 inch from the edge. As long as you're using a nylon zipper, you should be able to stitch right through those zipper teeth, no problem. That functions very nice. Now I want to take one of my two base panels, which measure 5.5 by 11, and I'm going to position that right sides facing on top of one edge of that zipper. I'm going to use 3/8 of an inch and stitch across there. I have a little excess where that zipper gusset needs to be trued up, so I'm going to go ahead and clean that up. And then I want to take the opposite end and line that up right sides facing and stitch across there. So now I have a tube here, and what I want to do is bring that longer part that is all zipper in to the center here, and you're going to have to hold this. I like to get it kind of like this, so the majority of that is in the center, and then just kind of roll that up, because you're going to make a little sandwich here. So you want the bulk of your zipper all rolled up nice and tidy in the middle, so your edges are nice and flat. You're going to need to move that zipper pull in from the edge, and you're going to take your remaining panel and position that right on top of there and just align those like size short edges. And we're going to stitch down the right hand side and the left hand side, keeping everything nice and even. So you may have to push everything back in once you get this first side down. Use that same 3/8 of an inch. Reinforce at the beginning and the end. And then I'm going to just guide this over, line everything up, same 3/8 of an inch. So now I can just flip this around and voila! I have encased those zipper ends so they're nice and finished on the short sides. Now I want to go ahead and flatten that out and stitch across the base to secure both of those layers. So I'm stitching below the zipper. And I'm going to do the same thing on the opposite side. And then I'm going to run a row of stitching all the way around each side of this big loop to seal those edges. I'm just using a very scant 1/8 of an inch seam allowance here. And this is just to make sure that the fabric pieces don't shift. So I want to center my base, and when I fold this in half, I should have an even amount of zipper on each side. We are basically getting some quarter marks here. So from the top of this fold to my base is 6 1/4 on that side, and here it is 6. So I'm just a little bit off, like a smidgen. So now I've got 6 and like an 1/8 and 6. So it is just a teeny tiny bit there. Okay, so I want to finger press in my quarter marks. This step will ensure your success. So as tempting as it is to skip this, I do not recommend that you do. So you're going to get the quarter marks marked at each end, and then you're going to fold that in half and press and mark right at center on both sides. So once I get that there, then I can open that up, and I'm going to get pin on each side. You could also carefully put a little notch with your scissors there, but I find the pins work very well. So now I have this quartered and it is ready. I'm going to set it aside for just a moment, and I'm going to take my 2 rectangles, which this will comprise the front and the back of the bag, and those measure 10 by 14. This project is unlined, again, to reduce the bulk and minimize the weight. Because I'm using a nice lightweight home decor fabric, it's not a problem. All right. If for some reason you did want it fully lined, just cut out 4 of these and place them wrong sides together and add a little stay stitching, and you can totally line this. All right, so working with just the 2 panels and an unlined piece, what you need to do is cut out a 2.5-inch circle. If you happen to have the laundry detergent cups, those measure 2.5 inches, and you can use that as your template. And you're just going to take that flat base of the cup and put it in the corner and round off that little bit of edge from the corner. So I saved one to do with you, and I just butt that circle right up there, press down on the cup so it doesn't shift, and get my cut line. It's actually a very tiny bit of fabric that you're taking off here, but this actually will make the assembly process easier. So you could see that's just a smidgen of fabric. But you're going to take that 2.5-inch template and round all 4 corners of that. Now we're going to do the same thing with our front and rear panels, and we're going to quarter mark those. And you could actually press these lines in with your iron as well if you want. I'll finger press, and I think that this will hold just fine for right now, that I don't need to put any pins in that to mark. I'm going to quarter this one here. And if you were using the 4 pieces and lining this, you could actually stitch in your quarter marks, and that would be even better. Okay, now I want to bring back over my gusset here and right sides together, so you know the zipper pull facing out is the right side. You're going to put the zipper at the top and just line up that quarter mark. And this is when you can switch to clips and remove those pins as you go. So I have the top quarter mark lined up, right sides facing, and now I am going to align the bottom quarter mark along those long edges first. Get my clip in there to hold, and then I'm going to align the side quarter mark. And then the opposite side quarter mark. And everything is right sides facing. Then I can come back in and start clipping. And by clipping, I mean attaching my clips, not cutting with your scissors. So you could also be pinning if you want. My friend Melissa, who sews with us live in Studio 365, learned how to sew with traditional sewing patterns. And in those traditional patterns, clipping means actually cutting. So she pointed that out to me, and I was like, by golly, you're right. So just want to clarify, clipping does not mean cutting in this video. It means actually using your clips. And you might want to put in some extras as you go around that corner, just to keep everything nice and secure. I love my clips. These clips were a gift to me from my friend Gloria years ago. She got tired of watching me poke myself, and she sent me these, and I've been working with them ever since. And every time I use them, I think of her. So thank you, Gloria, if you're watching this video. Now, if you cut accurately and your seam allowances were accurate, this should line up perfectly for you. And you should not have any puckers or big gaps. If you are confident that you cut perfectly and your seam allowance was perfect and you still have a gap, that is because you did not use precise quarter marks. So there's still time for you to rewind, get those quarter marks, and then re-clip this, okay? All right, now I want to use 3/8 of an inch seam allowance and stitch all the way around this edge, attaching one of the sides to my zipper gusset. We're going to repeat this process for the other side after the first side is attached. But before you attach the second side, make sure you open your zipper a little bit so you can turn this around. Okay? Okay, so I've made it all the way around. I just want to check and make sure that I have captured all the fabric in my seam allowance, and I have. It looks really good. Now, as mentioned, I want to attach the other side here using the quarter marks to line everything up. I have a small opening in my zipper. You don't want to unzip the zipper too much because that will distort the shape of the project and increase the likelihood that things may not line up. So just use the same process. First, align the longer edges to the quarter marks and get those clipped in place, and then align your shorter edges. Then come back in, add additional clips to hold everything secure, and go ahead and stitch all the way around that second edge using 3/8 of an inch seam allowance. And then you can unzip and turn that right side out. Check and make sure all the seams are captured in your stitch line. And then we're going to go ahead and turn it back around inside out so that we can quickly, I say, bind these raw edges. So once you make it all the way around that second side, just peek in, make sure that you captured all the edges and you don't have any excessive puckers. You certainly don't want any holes in this. And then you can zip that back up. Just leave a smidgen of it open so you can get it unzipped again. And now we want to take the 2 1/4 inch strips that we cut. These do not need to be cut on the bias for this project. Okay, you're certainly welcome to cut your fabric on the bias, especially if you are working with quilt weight cotton. The home decor fabric has like 0 stretch, so mine are just straight cuts. I'm going to trim off the selvage end on this and fold that in half long ways, wrong sides together. You don't need to press this, all right? You just need to get started on one edge with the wrong sides together. I like to fold in that short edge and finger press it about 1/4 inch so it's nice and finished. And I'm going to start here down at the base, and I'm just aligning the raw edges of this binding strip with the raw edges of my project. And I'm going to be using a 3/8 of an inch seam allowance and stitching all the way around this. Remember, all the raw edges are aligned. and just go nice and slow. You don't really want to pre-pin this on there because you want to have the freedom to adjust as you go. So just work in small increments and get all the pieces under the presser foot. And that 44/45-inch cut was just enough to bind this. As you approach that end, you can then leave the raw edge right on top and stitch across since we finished the under edge, and just line up that stitching. Then you simply fold this binding around over that seam allowance, and this would be a great time to use your real clips and fold that binding over the seam allowance. Keep everything nice and tidy. And then once you have folded that all the way around the edge and clipped that well, then you can come along the top, along that folded edge, and stitch right on that edge to tack down that binding and encase those raw edges. And you just want to go nice and slow and stay right on that edge. Then you'll repeat that same process for the opposite side, which has the raw edges, and you will have a nice, lightweight, fully finished packing pod for your next trip. Okay, I made it all the way around the first side. I have my binding in place. Now I'm going to repeat that same process on the second side, just folding that strip of binding in half, wrong sides together, and lining those raw edges up with the raw edges here of my seam. And then I'm going to fold that binding over and stitch right along the folded edge. Okay, I have completed the binding on both sides there. Now I just need to go ahead and unzip and turn this guy right side out. And you can see that this is still really lightweight. The contents will give this bag its structure. I just want to zip this up and give you some approximate measurements. All right, so the width is 13 and the height is 9, and the depth on this is 5 inches. So I thought it might be fun to see just really how spacious this is. So I have grabbed some clothes that if I were heading out on vacation next week would be with me. I have a pair of denim cut-offs. I have a t-shirt. I have a little sundress. And then I have some soft pajamas. And I still feel like there is plenty of room in there for me to tuck in some undergarments. And that really is amazing how much fits inside of there. So I'd love to see photos of your travel pods, please tag me at Sewspire on Instagram and Facebook. And if you will, show me what you pack inside. That would be really fun. So it's a quick and easy sew, and it did occur to me it would go even faster if you serged those interior edges and just omitted the binding entirely. But either way, I do feel like this is a really fast project that has a ton of functionality. You could obviously use these to corral cuts of fabric and organize closets and other small spaces in your home as well. So I hope you enjoyed the project. If you did, do me a favor and give this video a thumbs up, and please consider subscribing to the channel. I'd love for you to receive notifications of my future videos. So I'm really happy with the progress that I made down here. I was able to store some of my essentials and set up the systems like I had hoped. Got my heat press here, and then down here in these lower cabinets I have some of the supplies that I don't necessarily want to look at all the time. I have my patterns and my vinyl collection, the cutting mats for the Cricut, and then over in the bigger center here, I was able to set up my embroidery station and install a power strip and a cutting mat. I turned on the machine and it still works. I think we will be stitching with this next time I see you. I'm pretty sure it's going to be in need of a little mini tune-up, so maybe we will do that together. And then I have my sublimation printer down here on the lower shelf, the supplies that go with that on the shelf above. And then on this pull-out rack here, I have my embroidery threads and my mug press. And then on this second rack, I got my paper cutter, some interfacing, and my light box. So this old but very sturdy oak entertainment center will also continue to live on despite my family's pleas for me to get rid of it. It's just so functional. I'm still considering potentially repainting it. The purple matched the color of the room that it was in before, and I thought maybe my new drapes might help tie in the purple, but they actually made the problem worse. So stay tuned for a future episode when I might give the purple cabinets a makeover. And then I thought you might also enjoy seeing what's happening here in my other space, which is getting better by the minute. Got my little coffee station there, my organizers, which I got from Michael's. I added a third rainbow cart there, and those drawers are all organized. I hope you enjoyed this latest episode of the Sewspire Variety Show. It was a pleasure to spend this time with you. I will not be publishing a video next week because it's a holiday here in the United States. We will be celebrating Independence Day, or the 4th of July we call it. I'll see you in 2 weeks, Thursday, 1 p.m. Eastern. And round off, whoops, and store, whoops. That wasn't supposed to happen. Sewspire Variety.